Did she really get away with it? The Sherri Papini story intro on Thanksgiving Day 2016. A California mom named Sherri Papini turned up on the side of a highway, looking like she'd survived a horror movie. She was beaten, chained, and had been branded. Her story about a terrifying kidnapping by two mysterious women had the entire country glued to their screens. The only problem, almost every word she said, was a lie. This is the wild story of how one woman's elaborate hoax fooled her husband, her town, and basically the whole country for nearly 6 years. It's a story of incredible deception, pain she inflicted on herself, and the one tiny piece of evidence that brought the whole thing crashing down. But to really get how the lie got so big, we have to start at the beginning. Section 1. The lie is born to anyone looking in. Sherri and Keith Papini were living the suburban dream in their quiet community in Redding, California. They had 2 young kids, and friends called Sherri a supermom who was all about her family. That perfect picture was shattered on November 2, 2016. Keith Papini got home from work and found the house eerily empty. He used the Find My iPhone app and located Sherri's phone and earbuds tossed on the side of a road nearby, but Sherri was gone. He frantically called 911 and reported his wife missing. What came next was a massive 22-day search that the nation couldn't look away from. The story of a pretty young mother disappearing on her afternoon jog felt like it could happen to anyone. The community rallied, holding vigils and raising a big reward for her safe return. The media swarmed the small town, broadcasting Keith's tearful pleas for his wife to be brought home. For 3 weeks, there was nothing. No leads, no suspects, and no Sherri Papini. The only question was, where is she? And then, just as suddenly as she was gone, she was back. Section 2. The lie is sold. In the middle of the night on Thanksgiving, a truck driver spotted a woman waving frantically on the side of Interstate 5, about 150 miles from her home. It was Sherri Papini. She was rail-thin, covered in bruises, and was still in chains. Someone had crudely chopped off her long blonde hair. Her story was pure nightmare fuel. She claimed she'd been kidnapped at gunpoint by 2 Hispanic women who always kept their faces covered. She spun a tale of being held captive, tortured, and starved in a dark room. The most shocking detail: a brand that had been seared into her right shoulder. The public, who had been hoping for a miracle, was just relieved she was alive. The sheriff's office held a press conference, talking about how brave she was and the horror she'd been through. Papini's story, as bizarre as it was, seemed to be confirmed by the shape she was in. She had sold the lie to the police, her family, and a public that was completely captivated. Based on her story, she went on to get over $30,000 from the California Victim Compensation Board for things like therapy, the ambulance ride, and even new window blinds for her house. For 4 years, police chased down leads based on her descriptions, trying to find the 2 phantom women who had done this to her. But behind the scenes, a few things just weren't adding up. Section 3. The lie unravels right from the start. Some of the seasoned investigators had their doubts. A few details were just a little too weird, too inconsistent. But they had a victim who seemed traumatized and huge public pressure, so they followed her story. The case eventually went cold, but it was never closed. The break finally came 4 years later, from a place nobody saw coming: her own clothes. In 2020, thanks to better DNA technology, investigators could re-examine the male DNA they found on the clothes Sherri was wearing when she was found. They ran it through a genealogical database, and they got a hit, but it wasn't some violent kidnapper. It was Sherri's ex-boyfriend, a man named James Reyes. When the FBI showed up at his door, Reyes told a story that was even crazier than Sherri's. He said Papini had called him, claiming she had to escape her abusive husband. The whole kidnapping, he said, was a hoax she planned herself. According to Reyes, she spent the 22 days she was missing voluntarily hiding out in his Southern California apartment. His confession explained everything. He told investigators that all of Sherri's injuries were either self-inflicted or he had helped inflict them at her request to make the story look real. He described how she starved herself, how he helped her create bruises, and how he used a wood-burning tool from a craft store to brand her shoulder. Just like she asked, he drove her a few hours north on Thanksgiving morning and dropped her on the side of the highway. He cooperated completely and even passed a polygraph, leaving investigators with no doubt he was telling the truth. They finally had the real story. The only thing left was to confront the liar. Section 4. The truth is exposed. In August 2020, federal agents sat down with Sherri Papini. They warned her first. Lying to federal agents is a crime. Then they laid out the evidence. They told her about James Reyes. They told her they knew she'd been with him. But even when she was cornered with undeniable proof, Sherri Papini doubled down, lying right to the faces of the officers who had spent years on her case. The whole act did finally crumble until her arrest in March 2022. Facing a laundry list of charges for mail fraud and making false statements, Sherri Papini finally took a plea deal. She admitted she made the whole thing up and lied to law enforcement. In a statement, She said she was deeply ashamed and sorry for all the pain she'd caused. Her husband, Keith, who had defended her for years, filed for divorce and custody of their children just days after she confessed. In September 2022, a federal judge sentenced her to 18 months in prison, which was more than the prosecution even asked for, and ordered her to pay over $300,000 in restitution to the agencies that wasted time and money on her fake kidnapping. The judge called her a manipulator and said, "People don't like to be conned." She was released from prison in August 2023 after serving about 10 months and was moved to a halfway house, CTA. You'd think the story ends there. A lie is told, a lie is exposed, justice is served. But the Sherri Papini saga is far from over, which gets us to the main question. What do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you're into stories where the truth is stranger than fiction, make sure you subscribe. Conclusion: so, did she really get away with it? On the one hand, she was publicly humiliated. Her marriage fell apart. Her husband was granted full custody of their children, and she did time in federal prison. But on the other hand, for a crime that cost law enforcement hundreds of thousands of dollars and sent a wave of panic across the country, an 18-month sentence feels pretty light to a lot of people. As of early 2025, she has paid back almost none of the over $300,000 she owes in restitution. But the most telling part is what she's done since getting out. Despite pleading guilty and issuing a public apology, Sherri Papini has recently changed her story. Again, in a new docuseries and a planned book. She's now claiming that she was actually abducted by her ex-boyfriend James Reyes, which completely contradicts her own court-dated confession. She is trying to rewrite the narrative and paint herself as the victim all over again. She fooled the nation for years with a story of terror. She hurt herself to sell the lie. And now, she's trying to convince the world that the lie was really the truth. The legal system might be done with her, but it seems Sherri Papini isn't done with her story. She may have served her time, but by refusing to pay her debts and own her actions, she's still manipulating the truth. Whether she truly got away with it is a question we all have to answer for ourselves.